Amy Tan is best known for her collection of short stories, The Joy Luck Club. More recommended reading for you. And her writing really explores the idea of assimilation. Now, Amy Tan is a first generation American citizen, born to immigrant parents who came to the Bay Area. Actually, she's born and raised in Oakland. She currently still lives in the Bay Area. And she's really looking at this concept of the degree to which immigrant families assimilate in order to become successful within US society, right? And this includes a, a respect and a sort of reverence for one's past and for one's heritage, right? In this case, Amy Tan certainly does not want to lose her identity as a Chinese woman. And we see this throughout all of her writing. On the other hand, a certain amount of assimilation really is necessary for her family to achieve what is known as the American dream, right? Which is this idea that with hard work, with determination, with the right opportunity, you can become economically and socially successful within US society, which really is something that requires, in some sense, leaving behind one's identity. And we see this in the form of the mother's version of English, right? Given the mainstream idea of what is considered standard or acceptable English, we can see that Amy Tan's mother does not speak a version of English that would be considered mainstream or standard. Okay, and I'll read from paragraph 7 here. Lately, I've been giving more thought to the kind of English my mother speaks. Like others, I have described it to people as broken or fractured English, but I wince when I say that. It has always bothered me that I can think of no way to describe it other than broken, as if it were damaged and needed to be fixed, as if it lacked a certain wholeness and soundness. And that really is the central conflict here for Amy, the narrator, which is that she does value the version of English that her mother speaks. And she does not see her mother as limited. In fact, her mother understands parts of the world that Amy herself does not understand, such as the stock market, right? Also, we see that in the interaction with the doctors, for example, um, Amy's mother's English does not open doors for her. It's a barrier, it's an obstacle to her success within a larger society. So, again, that's the conflict, right? Because her version of English is not really accepted, and there's a certain amount of stigma that is attached to it. Okay? Now, I'm going to read from paragraphs 10 and 11, and we'll look at sort of the difference between what Amy might consider standard English and what others might consider limited English. So in paragraph 10, and my mother was standing in the back whispering loudly, why he don't send me check, already 2 weeks late. So mad he lie to me, losing me money. And here is Amy Tan's response. And then I said in perfect English, yes, I'm getting rather concerned. You had agreed to send the check 2 weeks ago, but it hasn't arrived. Right? Notice the different forms of expression, even though the content really is the same. But that is meant to highlight the difference in the modes of expression here, in the ways that Amy and her mother each express themselves. And I'm going to skip ahead to paragraph 17 here, where I think Amy really, Tan really gets to the heart of the issue here. I have been thinking about all this lately, about my mother's English, about achievement tests, because lately I've been asked, as a writer, why there are not more Asian Americans represented in American literature. Why are there few Asian Americans enrolled in creative writing programs? Why do so many Chinese students go into engineering? Well, these are broad sociological questions I can't begin to answer, but I have noticed in surveys, in fact just last week, that Asian students as a whole always do significantly better on math achievement tests than in English. And this makes me think there are other Asian American students whose English spoken in the home might also be described as broken or limited. And I think what she's saying here is that there's a version of English, and it comes with being bilingual, ironically, that is really looked down upon and stigmatized. And I say ironically because among non immigrant communities here in the US, we have some of the lowest rates of bilingualism worldwide. Okay? Immigrant communities tend to be bilingual and multilingual, as you would imagine. But non immigrant communities have very low rates of bilingualism, which means that something that sort of internationally is very well respected and very well regarded, that is, speaking multiple languages, here in the US tends to have a stigma, at least in Amy Tan's case and her family's case. There's a stigma around the fact that her mother is learning English as a second language and still retains some of the remnants of her home language. And I think that stigma tends to follow, at least according to Amy Tan, tends to follow Chinese American and other Asian American communities. So that people feel that language and English and literature and writing may not be for them because some of these stereotypes about the English language have been reinforced, and some of the stigmas about the way that English is spoken still stick.